This is Greenland, the world's largest island. Although a part of the Kingdom of Denmark and more politically tied to Europe, the island is actually found in North America. At around 2.16 million kilometers squared, the island is truly gigantic. If the territory were to become independent, it would rank as the 12th largest country on Earth, larger than Saudi Arabia, Mexico, or Indonesia. However, as large as the island is, its population is extremely low. Only around 56,000 people call the island home. This means that if we were to evenly distribute the land of Greenland across its population, each person would get around 38 kilometers squared each. That's 19 times the size of Monaco. Now when you think of Greenland, you probably imagine something like this. Barren, frozen landscapes, icebergs, and remoteness. But what about the actual towns and cities where people live? What do they look like? And what exactly goes on there? So let's travel around the world's largest island and investigate. So let's start off with the territory's capital city, Nuuk. So Nuuk is only one of 13 settlements that have a population greater than 1,000 on the island. Some 20,000 people live there, accounting for roughly 35% of the island's entire population. It's a really interesting and quite unique looking city. It's definitely got a Nordic vibe to it. Now, the city has one standout feature that immediately catches your eye. Many of the buildings are pastel coloured, but why exactly is this? Well, this isn't unique to Nuuk nor Greenland, as we do see it in other places like Iceland and Denmark too. The reason stems back to its Danish colonial times. The different colours represent different purposes for the buildings. Red is for commercial, yellow for hospitals, blue for fish factories, and green for communication buildings like post offices. Over time, this system became less strict or important, and people began painting homes in bright colours for more aesthetic purposes. Another reason why they do this is to stand out against the stark white Arctic landscapes, making towns more vibrant and visually distinctive. If you need a hospital urgently, then you'd ideally just look for the yellow building. Another thing that stands out with Nuuk is the lack of tall buildings. Usually capital cities are full of skyscrapers, but in Greenland its tallest building is just 24 meters tall. That's actually shorter than Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, and that's excluding its pedestal too. The building is a shopping centre that also includes a hotel and office space. For a capital city, Nuuk is extremely quiet and chill. With only 20,000 people living there, there isn't really traffic or noise pollution. Another thing you'll notice about Nuuk or Greenland as a whole is that most of the houses are fully detached and built as a complete standalone structure. The houses are of simple Nordic aesthetic with a focus on maximising light and warmth intake, as of course the city can get pretty chilly in the winter. Travelling some 320 kilometers north, we arrive in Greenland's second largest city, Sisimiut. Its population is only around 5,600, yet it is classed as the largest Arctic city in North America. The city has a similar vibe to Nuuk in the sense that it has a wonderful Arctic background and is filled with detached colourful buildings. Now, Sisimiut sits in a very interesting part of the world. It is just slightly outside of the imaginary line known as the Arctic Circle, meaning in summer it pretty much sees 24 hours of daylight and in winter 24 hours of darkness. Now, as low as a population as 5,600 is for a city, this next one is truly going to blow your mind. So if we travel another 300 kilometers north, we arrive in a settlement which could rank as being one of, if not the single least populated place on Earth. As in 2020, just 11 people were recorded to live here. The settlement in question is Kangerluk. The town was once a whaling station and saw a peak population of a mere 71 in the 1980s. But as opportunities dwindled, so did its population. There is still an elementary school there, which with a population of only 11, I can't imagine the class sizes are any more than a couple or few kids. The school also houses the settlement's only church and library. Travelling around 1,200 kilometers east, we arrive in Ittoqqortoormiit, a town with a population of only around 345 people, Greenland's 19th largest settlement. Its extreme remoteness on the east coast makes the town one of the most isolated and remote on Earth. It's actually much closer to Reykjavik, Iceland than it is to Nuuk. Again, just like many of Greenland's towns, it's pretty barren with Arctic landscapes and again detached colourful buildings. There are no roads in and out of the town. The only way its residents can leave is by boat in the summer or by taking a helicopter to the closest airport, which interestingly only serves flights to Iceland. Living conditions here are, as you'd imagine, pretty rough. The coldest temperature ever recorded in the town was -40.5 degrees Celsius. The main economy of the settlement is whale and polar bear hunting. It's so cold that the waters surrounding it are usually frozen, meaning the fishing industry never really developed. There is a minuscule tourism industry here too, as Arctic expeditions do operate here. In the settlement, there is only one single guest house. Travelling around 1600 kilometers northwest, we arrive in Kangerluk, one of the northernmost towns on Earth. Now, as remote as the town is, it's pretty important not just to Greenland, but to the United States too, as there is an American military base found near the town. The town follows the same aesthetic and vibe as the previously mentioned places, but there is one standout man-made structure that I found that is located just outside of the town. So this is the CT-BTO station, a station with an array of sensors that detect possible nuclear tests around the world. With a population of around 650, it is the most populated settlement found in the far north of Greenland. This number has actually remained relatively stable over the last couple or few decades. But as far north as this town is, it is still not Greenland's most northern settlement, as that belongs to Siorapaluk, which looks like this. So the town has a grand total population of around 43 people. The people there speak the language of Ittoqqortoormiit, which is believed to be only spoken by around 1,000 people around the world. Siorapaluk has an electrical power plant, direct satellite radio and TV broadcasting, as well as a single store and a telephone service. It's very simple living up there. The settlement school is combined with its church and a small library. Air Greenland actually operates flights to Kangerluk Airport via the space base mentioned earlier that the Americans own. But this tiny town is found some 45 kilometers north of that base, meaning travelling outside of the town is a bit of a task. What's nice, however, is that these flights are completely subsidised by the government of Greenland. As the crow flies, if we travel around 2,100 kilometers southeast, we'd arrive in Nanortalik, Greenland's southernmost city. 2,100 kilometers, by the way, is just a little smaller distance than London to Marrakesh in Morocco. So Nanortalik has a population of just over 1,000 people, making it Greenland's 11th most populated city. Now 1,000 seems like a lot considering some of the previous settlements we spoke about barely even made double-digit figures. But remember, this is not a lot of people. For reference, an A380-800 can hold around 850 people, nearly this entire town. So because of its southern location, this area was one of the first parts of Greenland settled by the Norse, and one of the last settled by the Inuit people. Although it is still pretty chilly in winter, its climate is very different than the northern towns we just spoke about. The coldest ever temperature recorded there was -16 degrees Celsius, and the highest a very pleasant 20 degrees Celsius. The town has a very cozy and charming look to it. You've got the typical colourful buildings and a church that stands out across the cityscape. And then with temperatures in parts of the year being somewhat mild, there is some plant life, which isn't really a thing further up north. So most of Greenland is classed as ice cap climate, where the land is normally covered by a permanent layer of ice and has no vegetation and minimal animals. But with Nanortalik being found in the territory's deep south, it is classed as tundra climate. So still very cold and rough in the winter, but just mild enough at times to sustain plant life. Nanortalik is actually found just a little southwest of the Kingwa Valley, a valley that is protected from the cold winds coming in from the interior of the territory. This means that the conditions are warm enough to house Greenland's only naturally forested region. Now when you imagine Greenland, you probably don't envision landscapes and scenery like this, even though its name quite literally is Greenland. So there we have it, some interesting towns, cities and settlements across Greenland. After doing my research for this video, I actually really want to go there. It's just a shame it's so expensive to visit. Like and subscribe for more geography content, and as always, thank you very much for watching.